morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
You know, every day that we ride without snow on the ground is a bonus now, and soon it'll be winter shoes on the horses and long johns on me, but so far so good. Now this week I'll visit with a longtime cowboy friend and a pretty good hockey player many of you know. Maury Grant is one of those top hands that you might think does everything smoothly and gracefully, except for one or two occasions he'll tell us about.
Her boss had just planted a mess of new grass seeding on her front lawn, and my bull got in there and was tearing up her new front lawn.
And see if you can figure out what Baxter Black will be talking about.
I've already told you I hold him in high regard, but that doesn't mean I don't shoot one now and again.
And we'll look at trends, prices, markets, and more on the Rangeland News.
Producers may be holding cattle back because of available forage, as well as price concerns both for cattle feeders and cow-calf operators.
And as usual, high-quality cowboy poetry.
Not an ounce of wasted energy. The big black colt moved out in a confident, slow way that I admire. Never hurried, never hustled. We just turned each horse about, and another calf was stretched out by the fire.
And now for some big news for us. I am so happy to welcome a brand new sponsor to the show. From now on, the Horse Training File will be brought to you by our good friends at Irvine Saddles and Western Wear, just off the QE2 highway a short drive north of Calgary. And if you're in there shopping, boy, I'd appreciate it if you'd thank them for helping us keep this program on the air. And on that Horse Training File this week, you'll hear my thoughts on what it takes to be successful in a trainer's colt starting competition. And we're going to get things started with a track from one of the best ranch rodeo bronc riders in the country. Matt Robertson's new CD just arrived, and this one's called Frigid, High and Lonesome.
Hot coffee is waiting, he's contemplating moving to a country where the mercury don't drop. Looks forward to summer, why he don't leave you wonder. He must love this life, or he's too dumb to stop. His spurs they're jingling, his toes they're tingling. Frosty breath rises like warm chimney smoke. He's calving cows on stormy nights, he's been riding since daylight. Trots for the house, but he'd sure like to load. They call it a country where a cowboy is king, where peaceful days ride is easy on your mind. He wonders if he can hold out one more frigid, high, lonesome winter time. He cusses the snow, but he's still gotta go. Shirk any task would be a blow to his pride. But the winters seem colder, each year he grows older, making him as bitter as the wind outside. They call it a country where a cowboy is king, where a peaceful day's ride is easy on your mind. He wonders if he can hold out one more frigid, high, lonesome winter time. Old wounds that once mended, the pain he thought ended, return each season with the coming of the storm. And old flames he had kindled, he once thought long dwindled, return late at night, but no longer are warm. They call it a country where a cowboy is king, and a peaceful day's ride is easy on your mind. He wonders if he can hold out one more frigid, high, lonesome. Oh, so lonesome, that frigid, high, lonesome winter time.
Grant Robertson has assembled some terrific musicians on that great new CD of his, and that sparkling mandolin there was from a guy that runs the Stump Lake Ranch not far from here, Dan Fremlin, and of course Gordon Matthews, who backs up Ian Tyson a lot. Boy, it was good to catch up with Maury Grant recently, rancher, cowboy, horseman, and since he's been an industry rep for Boehringer Ingelheim, he travels a lot and maybe rides a little less than he used to.
So do you still get to do much riding and working with your horses and your dogs?
I don't ride as much as I used to. I mean, when you're ranching every day and going every day, of course, it's gratifying work. Now I'm working with Boehringer, of course, and on the road a little more, so the chances that I do get to go ride, you appreciate a little more, but not riding as much as I used to.
I guess you get to see some pretty nice outfits, though, in some of your travels.
Well, that is the one thing. When you're ranching, you're just basically on your own ranch and worrying about it, and you're every day there. Now it's a case where I can get out and see all the ranches that I've heard about, met all the guys before, and now to see their ranches and see how they work, that's the one aspect that the guy really enjoys, that's for sure.
And you're helping them with, with their animal health and everything else, too, so...
Oh yeah, no, and that's kind of the gratifying part is I used to be on the other side of the table, and now when you see the science behind the products and know how they work and see the wrecks from the other side of the table, it's always satisfying, that's for sure.
Years ago, Billy and I had this dream of having about 150 cows of our own and being self-sufficient and putting up all our own feed and looking after our own fences and our machinery and all the rest of that. But in the last several years, we've kind of gotten out of that, and we've got a little token cow herd, but I get to spend a lot of my time riding with other outfits and riding with some fairly good-sized outfits and just cowboying. And, if we had our 100 and 150 cows, I wouldn't have time to ride as much. And for me, this is working way better.
Well, that's just it. And that's the thing is you get to see other country. And, it's fun to ride your country, but you get bored of it after a while.
No, not our country. It's not boring, but...
But it is nice to see how other people... Because every ranch runs different, and not the answers that might work in one place won't work in the other. So by being able to go to a lot of different places, it really opens your eyes to all the possibilities that are out there. And so that always makes it a little more enjoyable, and it really helps your knowledge base in the long run.
Oh, sure does, yeah. And you add to the accumulation of country that you are familiar with, and if you have to go out there again, you got a half an idea where the water holes and the creek beds and the fence lines run and that kind of thing.
And we'll talk about ways of handling cattle on horseback and some of the things that can really make it work. And another song I think you'll like when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. When you're working with a lot of cattle, it sure is a pleasure to ride with top hands, men and women who understand cattle and really know their horses. And it's usually done quietly, efficiently, with a minimum of wasted energy. And I know that my guest this week, Maury Grant, has experienced a lot of that.
Over the years, I'm sure that your way of riding, cowboying, cattle handling has evolved with the experience you've had. Were there some experiences that kind of changed the way you do things?
Well, I think the biggest change in my life was when Tanner was born. Of course, as we talked before, he was born with Down syndrome, and he doesn't talk. So what it does is it forced me to have patience. It forced me to speak with a different energy. And because, like with him, it's all through expression. And that's how animals talk to you. So I think that's probably been a bigger key than anything. And it really changed how I view animals, how I look at dogs, how cows work, how horses work. And it also put me on a journey to try to better myself because I had to change, and I bettered it through animals because they taught me the patience. They taught me how to communicate through expression, and so it's been a fantastic journey. Wouldn't trade it for anything, and it's made life interesting.
When you can sort of do away with the verbal part of it and stop yelling at those cows and cussing your horse and sit back and sort of let it sink in what's going on. Sometimes even the subtle communication between your horse and those cows is something you didn't even realize was going on, but it is.
Well, yeah, the thing is, like I've always said, if you've got the patience, and you have the patience to allow the animal, whether it's a dog, whether it's a cow, or whether it's a horse, to make their own decision. What we do as a human is we want to manipulate everything and we want to control everything.
Oh, yeah.
So we will rein a horse before we allow him to make that step on his own. And if you're patient and you can wait for those animals to start to make their own decisions and trust them that they're going to make the decision you want them to, and then all of a sudden you're not a pilot. You're just the passenger in the seat, and then you enjoy the ride. And it's so satisfying, and you find out, hey, that horse knew when to move before I saw it.
Yeah.
But when you were too busy manhandling him, he never had that opportunity. So it's when you kind of evolve into that side of it, well, then you just say, why did I do all that work all those years ago? If I'd have just sat back and been a little quieter, life would have been a lot easier.
And we'll get a little deeper into this, Maury, after another great song from a guy who's considered by those he rides with as a top hand. All the way from Texas, this is R.J. Vandegrip.
There was a lifetime of living in the lines on his face. His skin was brown as leather from those years of cowboy days. His hands were bit and drawn with arthritis and the pain. And his crown of coal black hair had turned silver gray. He had a handshake strong and steady, like the horses he once rode. A voice soft and soothing, like the ladies he had known. He was a cowboy philosopher with a PhD in life, whose wisdoms ring like melodies are playing in my mind. He'd say, put your faith in Jesus, not what politicians say. Get up every morning, son, and live life every day. If your pony goes to pitching, ride him best you can. But if you can't get him covered, find a soft place to land. He'd been a bronco peeler way back in the day. He rode a Bob Meyer saddle and he sit it tall and straight. Folks said he's sort of spooky, how he read a horse's mind, like he knew what they were thinking when he looked into their eyes. He'd say, wet saddle blankets, boys, a little patience and some time sure goes a long, long way to shape a horse's mind. Remember, horses all like people. There's good ones and there's bad. But with horses it don't matter, just so long as they get fed. I once asked him what's the secret to this mystery of life. He simply smiled and looked at me with a twinkle in his eye. He said, some are seeking fortune, others look for fame. If you're doing what you love, son, you're a winner in life's game. You've got to put your faith in Jesus, not what politicians say. Get up every morning, son, and live life every day. If your pony goes to pitching, ride him best you can. But if you can't get him covered, find a soft place to land. Lay beside him where he marked his favorite verse. His boots were shined, his jeans were pressed, and he wore a new white shirt. Now one hand held his cowboy hat lying on his chest, the other was on his saddle sitting right next to his bed. A note was on the table he'd written before he passed. There's a bottle in the cabinets, boys, fill yourselves a glass. Have a toast to our good times, and if it's all the same, don't waste your prayers on me, pray for slow falling rain. Yes, he's going to meet his maker, that big boss in the sky. I'm sure he'll have plenty of good horses there to ride. This old cowboy philosopher with a PhD in life, whose wisdoms ring like melodies just playing in my mind. He'd say, put your faith in Jesus, not what politicians say. Get up every morning, son, and live life every day. If your pony goes to pitching, ride him best you can. But if you can't get him covered, find a soft place to land. There was a lifetime of living in the lines on his face.
R.J. Vandegrift. Oh, that's a great album of his, too. Now, you know, I've watched a lot of young folks really get good at the job they do with their horses and the cattle they look after, and that's what we're talking about with Maury Grant.
And, you know, it's something it's even hard to explain until you've sort of been to that point and experienced it. And I'm just telling some folks that I got a young gelding at home now that I'm really enjoying. Got a real cowboy name. His name is Stanley.
Oh, yeah.
Stanley, my horse.
Yeah.
But he is such a great partner. The other day I was riding out over the hill and I patted him on the neck and I said, I don't know if I'm doing you any good, partner, but you're doing me a world of good.
Yeah.
And but I did notice I was moving a lot of cattle myself over the summer. Quiet cows and calves, but there are times when you got to adjust and you got to sort of pivot around because you anticipate this one. Her ears are going off towards this trail through the bush and she's thinking about going that way. Well, you want to kind of get into her right eye if she's heading to the right and just let her see you there. Sometimes that's all it takes to get her back. But I found that my horse wasn't working off his hind end as much as I wanted him to when I have to put him into that position. And then finally I sort of realized I'm trying to get him to move his right front foot when he's got all his weight on that foot on the ground.
Yeah.
If I can wait until that right front foot is just ready to lift off, then shift my weight to the outside, he'll just kind of pivot around more comfortably. But it's those little subtle things that you know, make cowboying so worthwhile.
Well, yeah, it's the little subtle things, like you say, is horses get frustrated, and it's amazing what they will take and what they will put up with, because there's the same way as I know that when my horses used to get mad, it's because I was in their way. And when you can figure out a way to get out of their way and use less muscles in your body, then they can flow. And when they can flow freely and flow out from underneath you, and then it just makes it just magical, basically.
Beautiful feeling.
Yeah.
What do you got for horses now?
I've got one main horse that I've kind of rode and played around with, and then I've got about 5 youngsters that, you know, one of them's got 5-6 rides on, a few more to start with, and that's kind of what I'm sitting with right now.
So do you get to take, or will you be planning to take these youngsters out and get some cow work on them somehow?
Yeah, that's always the challenge for me. I'm lucky, I'm fortunate, I have an indoor at home, and when I do get home, I like to stay home. So it's offered me when you're ranching and cowboying type of deal, you don't ever really finesse those horses and get them fine-tuned.
No, yeah.
And now I have a chance where I'm getting them all fine-tuned and everything, but I'm really missing that outdoor activity and getting them out and seeing the big picture and seeing the big... I love riding inside. I'm turning into real fair weather. Yeah. I don't have to worry about the snow. I don't have to worry about the rain. If it's dark, I turn the lights on. So I'm enjoying that side of it, but I do miss the riding out and cowboying, that's for sure.
Well, Maury, I want to hear that story about your bull on the newly seeded lawn of your boss's wife. So if you can stand by with that, we'll get back to you shortly. Baxter Black is next when the Spirit of the West continues right after this.
Howdy, friends. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan with a little peek at the coyote. What makes America the most productive, generous country on earth? Well, it's ordinary people like us working together to achieve extraordinary things. B&W builds the trailer hitches that hook the loads that haul the grain, the coal, the cattle, cotton, gas, horses, and RVs that keep America on the road. Quality made, employee-owned, and customer-tuned. B&W trailer hitches working together to keep America proud. I'd like to address the subject of predators. No, not the IRS. What I'm talking about is the coyote. I guess he's about the smartest animal I know. They're survivors, kind of like a lot of us. He's been chased and shot at all over the country since the beginning of time, but they always manage to keep going. They're so adaptable they can prosper in Yellowstone Park, Fayetteville, Tennessee, or the Philadelphia suburbs. Coyotes are sort of the choir singing in the service. They lend a little romance to the woods of the plains, but of course they aren't exactly on the friendliest of terms with farmers and ranchers. Some folks think that livestock people hate coyotes. That's not true. I've already told you I hold them in high regard, but that doesn't mean I don't shoot one now and again. The problem is, we're both trying to do business on the same piece of ground, and sometimes we have a conflict. The coyote. Take him for what he's worth. Nothing more, nothing less. I think I can speak for the coyote with more understanding than most, especially those who defend him and live on the New Jersey coast. They raise up a pitiful cry and claim he's a mistreated critter who'll soon be extinct if the ranchers out west don't put down their rifles and quit her. But like all of God's creatures around us, there's always two sides to the tale, and I think if the coyote were human, that most of them would be in jail, because there's no doubt he preys on the weaklings, or the youngsters too little to run, and he slits the throats of cute little lambs and drags little calves from their mom. So if you must describe him in terms such as wily and clever and keen, you must also include homicidal, sadistic, demented, and mean. But I will choose to do neither, and somehow I wish you would too. For the coyote, he has no conscience. He's just doing the best he can do. You can like and dislike the coyote. Many ranchers I know do both. When he trespasses, he'll get shot at. But his song in the night brings a toast. A toast to our neighbor the coyote, who'll outlive the earth and the sky and be here long after we've parted, like the cockroach, the rat, and the fly. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan, brought to you by B&W Turnover Bowl.
Now, just ahead of the Rangeland News, here's something kind of neat. You know, most cowboys I know would rather ride than pound posts and string barbed wire, but when they need to, they'll do it, and they'll take a lot of pride in how they build that fence. And that leads us to the Fence Building Blues with Dave Stamey.
He's got a roll of rusty wire, a big old T-post driver. He had some pride, but he don't know where it went. He's got a set of post-hole diggers. It's hard to him to figure how we wound up out here building fence. He hired on as a rider, but now they've got him stretching wire. That wind is cold and he thinks it's gonna rain. In this hard and rocky ground, you can't hardly pound these T-posts down. This kind of work just goes against his grain. He's got those fence building blues, quite a blow to his ego. He's wearing low-heel shoes, and he's out here with those fence-building blues. Ah, the boss said, get it done. These old cross ties weigh a ton. And he thinks he's left his pliers in the barn. He's using yellow wire stretchers. Mister, you can bet you this old tamping bar is wearing out his arms. He's got those fence building blues, quite a blow to his ego. He's wearing low-heel shoes, out here with those fence building blues. Western dream. It's insulting, it's demeaning. It's enough to make an old cowboy whine. They didn't even leave him a beer. Hell, he quit, but there ain't nobody out here. And that truck ain't coming back till supper time. He's got those fence building blues, quite a blow to his ego. He's wearing low-heel shoes, and he's out here with those fence building blues. Yeah, he's out here with those fence building blues.
Now the news of the rangeland, a roundup of news and coming events from around the West. We'll tell you what's new under the western sky right after this word from the cattlemen of Western Canada.
Ranching is an important part of our community. From farm to fork, it takes a year and a half to bring beef to your table. It all begins with a calving in the spring of the year. After 6 months in their mother's care, calves are weaned and begin a feeding regimen where they are fed both hay and grain. Ranchers are proud to provide wholesome beef for BC families.
Now, the Rangeland News, top of page 1. A lot of calves have been weaned and sent to feedlots by now, but there still are quite a few out on the ranges and pastures, and according to some new numbers, some ranchers seem to be reluctant to ship calves at this point. With more, here's Rod Bain.
There were what might be some surprises to industry analysts in USDA's latest cattle on feed report. Agriculture Department livestock analyst Shale Shagam says first,
there were a number of analysts in the industry that were expected to see higher than year earlier placements, and we didn't see that.
With placements of cattle and calves in feedlots 2% below this time last year. Shagam says producers may be holding cattle back because of available forage, as well as price concerns both for cattle feeders and cow-calf operators. Another potential surprise is the number of heifers in feedlots, up 4% from September 2015.
But as a proportion of the total number of animals on feed was about 33.5%, which is a little bit higher than a year ago.
Shagam adds that this may be a signal
that maybe the cow-calf operators, while they're concerned about poor returns, have not fully changed their thinking about continuing to grow the cow herd as we move forward.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
A newly patented vaccine by Kansas State University researchers could be good news for meat consumers as well as for cattle and those who care for them. The researchers developed a solution that could provide effective antibiotic-free prevention of Fusobacterium necrophorum infection. Should ask Maury Grant how to say that. The bacterium affects sheep and cattle with liver abscesses, calf diphtheria, and foot rot or abscesses. And currently antibiotics, of course, are used to control these infections, but the vaccine takes a different approach to keep animals healthy and consumers happy. The Food and Drug Administration has issued guidance to minimize the use of a lot of antibiotics in animals, especially those similar to ones with human applications. So the leading researcher says this vaccine is an alternative. This way we don't have to expose people's food to bacteria that have acquired resistance to many antibiotics. So the vaccine protects both animals and humans. Well, you still have some time to apply for this program, and it's open to agriculture students across Canada. Farm Management Canada, FMC, and the Canadian Association of Diploma in Agriculture Programs have launched the 2016-17 Excellence Award for Agricultural Students, designed to encourage students to improve their critical thinking, communication, and leadership skills through a national competition, and will award 3 winners with scholarships towards furthering their education in agriculture, and the first place award is $1,500. Students are asked to submit a multimedia presentation, a video, a Twitter chat, a blog, or a wiki responding to this question. Certain segments of the general public question the way food is produced and have misgivings about the use of new technology. What concrete steps would you, as a future member of the agricultural industry, propose to bridge the information and the awareness gap? And for more information or to apply, you can go to www.fmc-gac.com. Applications must be received no later than May the 5th, 2017. Well, a well-known Colorado cattle rancher and conservationist, Dale Lassiter, died Sunday, October the 15th in a horse accident on his ranch near Matheson. He was 72. He was raised on the Lassiter Ranch in Texas and in Matheson. He was a graduate of Princeton University and spent many years working with cattle improvement programs, worked with the Peace Corps in Colombia before taking over the family ranch in 1986. And he worked as general manager of International Cattle Systems, a diversified livestock company with headquarters in Kansas, and was Dale's father, Tom, who developed the Beefmaster breed in the 1930s and was officially recognized as a new breed by USDA officially in 1954. There are pre-sort calf sales every Monday at the Innisfail Auction Market. Calves are weighed Sundays, and of course regular cattle sales every Wednesday and horse sales twice a month. In fact, the next one is November the 19th, and tack starts selling at 9. Horses come through at noon. You can get all the details at InnisfailAuctionMarket.com. And boy, I was just sitting down last night after watching something, I can't remember what, on TV, and Beef Illustrated was sitting right there beside my chair, and I read a terrific article on a 75-mile cattle drive that still takes place in east central Alberta. You know, Alberta Beef Magazine and Beef Illustrated reaches over 20,000 producers in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and across the country. You can subscribe by calling 403-250-1090 and see albertabeef.ca, where you can read the digital edition. Amazing how that works. And that takes us down to the final item. And I thought you'd get a kick out of this. Top 10 reasons that farm and ranch trucks are very seldom ever stolen. Number 10, they have about 20 miles before they overheat, break down, or run out of fuel. Number 9, only the owner knows how to operate the door to get in and out. Number 8, it's difficult to drive fast with all the fence tools, grease rags, ropes, chains, syringes, buckets, boots, and loose papers in the cab. And number 7, it takes too long to start, and the smoke coming up through the rusted-out floorboard clouds your vision. And the number 6 reason why ranch trucks don't get stolen very often, the border collie on the toolbox looks mean. And the number 5 reason, they're too easy to spot. The description might go something like this: the driver's side door is red, the passenger side door is green, the right front fender is yellow, and on it goes. And the number 4 reason, the large round bale in the back makes it hard to see if you're being chased. You could use the mirrors if they weren't cracked and covered with duct tape. And the number 3 reason, top speed is about 45 miles an hour. And reason number 2, who wants to steal a truck that needs a year's worth of maintenance, U-joints, $3,000 in body work, taillights, and windshield? And the number 1 reason why farm and ranch trucks don't get stolen very often, it's hard to commit a crime with everybody waving at you. And that's the Rangeland News. Coming up on the Irvine Saddles and Tack Horse Training File, my first thoughts on what it takes to win a trainer's colt starting competition, and then a song about cowboy work in the winter, and more from my guest Maury Grant when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Coming up, more from my guest Maury Grant, a song from a good cowboy and songwriter about doing horseback work in the winter.
Now it's time for the Horse Training File, brought to you by Irvine Tack and Western Wear, Canada's largest Western store.
What does a trainer have to know, and what should he be able to do to win a Trainer's Challenge colt starting competition? That's what I'll talk about on the Horse Training File. Experience the true Spirit of the West at Canada's largest Western store, Irvine Tack and Western Wear. If you need a curb strap or a 4-star gooseneck trailer, you'll find it here. A saddle for every rider. Cutters, reiners, penners, trainers, working ranch cowboys, ropers. They have over 1,200 in stock. And they have Western wear for the entire family. And how about a gift card as a Christmas stocking stuffer? Shop online at irvinesaddles.ca. Free shipping on orders of over $100. irvinesaddle.ca, 1-877-946-9494. I've had a lot of interesting conversations with riders of all disciplines in the last few weeks. Most of the questions were from aspiring colt starters who wanted my thoughts on what it takes to be successful in colt starting competitions. And obviously, drawing a good colt is a big factor, but I recently watched one with 3 trainers working with 3 colts, and I'm pretty sure the winner could have won it with any of the 3 colts there. These were well-bred, athletic, big 2-year-old geldings who'd been running free in a big pasture in a big herd since the day they were born. One of them showed a lot of sensitivity and was somewhat afraid of the human touch at first. My thoughts are this type of colt needs leadership, strong leadership more than anything. And the first challenge in the groundwork is to be able to control all 5 of his body parts and control his feet movements completely. And the next thing he needs is lots of full body-to-body contact. If it's done right, he'll get reassurance and comfort from the feel of the trainer's chest on his side. And as soon as he tolerates it, laying across the colt's body, bareback will give him security. The last thing you want to do with this type of colt is be tentative in your posture and movements. And this type of colt is one that in good hands can really do a lot in a short time. But if you make some fundamental mistakes, it won't go well. And an aggressive colt that wants to strike, kick, or bite can be convinced to relinquish leadership with the trainer as long as the trainer has control of the 5 body parts and the feet. Now, if the colt really tries to bite, my advice is don't get into a contest with him. This type of colt loves to play that game, bet I can bite you before you hit me, and he'll win. What's worked for me is to take his mind away from the biting response by disengaging his hindquarters, moving his hips around fairly vigorously until he shows a change, and it works way better than trying to smack him when he bites. Feel, balance, and timing play a huge part in the progress, and there are a great many good young cowboys and cowgirls and some older ones who really understand how it works, and so many great horsemen have said it's not the procedure nearly as much is how it's applied. And that's the Irvine Saddles and Tack Horse Training File. Another thing our horses really appreciate and do well on is that daily feeding of Hoffman's Horse Ration. Find out more at hoffmanshorseration.com. Ryan Fritz is really developing a following in his well-written songs about the life he lives, inspired by his years of riding for some of the biggest outfits in the West, and now running his own place. It seems each album he records is even better than the last one. This is from his highly acclaimed Keeper of the West CD called Winter Ridin' Begins.
The first snow has fallen sweet like icing I'd like to eat. Oh, I can't wait to leave this shack and go lay a set of tracks. There's cattle that I need to find. I've really just been killing time, waiting for the snow to tell me where to go. Now it's time to ride from the mountains down through the pine. And how you better win as my winter riding begins. The valley cloud is laying low like all the winters that I know. Out here on the western side, that rocky great divide. But way up high, the sun will shine. It's colder, but I don't mind. Hey, there's a track from that lost steer. What's he doing way up here? Now it's time to ride from the mountains down through the pine. And how you better win as my winter riding begins. seems to lead nowhere. I wish that steer was standing there. A fire sure would feel good now and warm me up. But there's a cow, old steaming horse back from the chase, is gonna warm me anyways. 'Cause now it's time to ride from the mountains down through the pines. So how you better wind as my winter riding begins. How you better wind as my winter riding begins.
Ryan Fritz, and of course he's been there and done that, following tracks in the snow, trying to get those cows that were missed in the roundup back down to the winter range. And now it's back to Maury Grant, cowboy, rancher, horseman, and industry rep for Boehringer Ingelheim.
I cowboyed a lot by myself and with two good dogs. And it was always satisfying at the end of the day, whether you took 300 pairs and took them out on a trail and single filed them out, and you worked 5-6 hours by yourself with your dogs. And there was just a real piece of satisfaction that you had internally when you went home. And part of it was, you always say, oh, I wish I had somebody to kind of see that.
Yeah.
You know, and there's nobody around to see it.
Yeah.
But it's just, and I think the part I miss are those days, to get the true appreciation of the horse working for you, dogs working for you. That's one thing I loved working was my dogs with cattle. And just because it was such a team sport. And to get them, you know, there's a difference of cowboying in Alberta and BC. You know, we get some pretty rugged country, and to know where you can chase a cow and to see where they can actually go and you can end up in the spot you wanted to at the end of the day, it's pretty satisfying. And that's probably, like I say, if a guy missed one thing, that would be the big one.
Yeah. Yeah, some of my greatest accomplishments, nobody but my horse even knew we did it.
Well, yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
And some of the big embarrassments, it's probably a good thing nobody was around.
Well, that's true, like too. Yeah, you never told them what was around the campfire. Yeah. I do remember I roped my bull in my wife's boss's yard. They got into a subdivision, and her boss had just planted a mess of new grass seeding on her front lawn, and my bull got in there and was tearing up her new front lawn. So we roped that one, tied it to a tree right beside her house, and that was probably kind of my bad day when I went home and I told my wife, your boss might be a little angry with me.
Yeah, you'll be reseeding the lawn for the next few days.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We had it worked up well, though.
Oh, good. Yeah, really well aerated.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, bovine feed will do that.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Well, Maury, so good to see you. Give our best to the family.
I will. Thank you very much.
Still to come, our classic Song of the West segment with an old song you might remember and the story behind the song, and then the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Time for a look at another one of those classic songs of the West now. You know, it was 1940 when Charles Starrett made the first of many movies in which he starred as the Durango Kid. Bob Nolan and the Sons of the Pioneers played a major part in this one, and several others as well. And Tim Spencer and Bob, of course, wrote most of the music for those movies. Now, there's a scene in The Durango Kid where all the boys, the Sons of the Pioneers, are busy painting a barn, and they're singing a song that Tim Spencer wrote. And it's, since then, been done by quite a few groups. I like this version from Bob Wagner, our classic Song of the West this week. There's a rainbow over the range.
It's a grand and glorious day, and the clouds have rolled away. The fading thunder still in the far-off hills. There's a rainbow You must have the rain to have a rainbow, and the clouds are bound to come along. First the clouds, the rain, and then the rainbow. Then all nature sings a happy song. There's a rainbow over the range, and the skies are blue again. The rolling thunder spills in the far-off hills. There's a rainbow over the range. Hear the cowboys yippee-yi-oh, while the dog is milling low. The sun is riding high in the prairie sky. There's a rainbow over the range. I've been told there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow lane, but I found that trail just a magic veil that's born in the sun and rain. It's a grand and glorious day, and the clouds have rolled away. The fading thunder stills in the far-off hills. There's a rainbow over the range. There's a rainbow over the range.
That's Bob Wagner singing all the parts, playing all the instruments on Tim Spencer's There's a Rainbow Over the Range. And now, time for the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight. And this one just arrived in the mail this week as well. Nice compilation of poems from Phyllis Rathwell and Larry Miller. And this one is from Larry.
The late Ed Brown, a cowboy from California, wrote a poem about, I guess, his mentor, and each one of us have one. This is called In the Eyes of the Beholder. Of course I'll come, I answered when I took the foreman's call. I like to help the neighbors when I can. My irrigating water won't miss me much at all, and there's not a better thing to do than brand. Bright and early the next morning, I went quickly out the door. As the morning stars were starting to go out, I rattled across the cattle guard, contented to the core, 'cause brandings are what this life's all about. Though I didn't know this outfit, I'd know most of the cowboys there. This ranching world is really kind of small. Then I had no way of knowing when the ropers were all paired. I'd be roping with the master of them all. He was clearly pushing 80 when we shook hands all around. Never met before, but I sure knew his name. And before the day was over, I was certain that I'd found several pieces to this puzzling living game. Swinging overhand Rieta, regular as a metronome, on a black colt poised and ready every beat, he would sail it towards a target, and it always found a home on an unsuspected calf's head or 2 feet. Not an ounce of wasted energy. The big black colt moved out in a confident, slow way that I admire. Never hurried, never hustled. We just turned each horse about, and another calf was stretched out by the fire. When we broke for lunch, I noted on his colt tied by the fence, with the faded saddle fenders in the sun, he'd won it as a trophy in a bridle horse event. It said, Santa Barbara, 1951. I admired it for its beauty, nearly hidden by its age. It was finely crafted, rigging to the horn. Every scar on it was history. I could read it page by page. And he'd won it 10 years before I was born. As the branding was concluded, one young roper that I'd met who'd been running his poor pony from the start gave his horse one final jerking, covered up with foam and sweat, up and asked me, "Where'd you dig up that old fart?" Every nerve I had said hit him, but instead I let it pass. His arena broke ideas are commonplace. His mind is wrapped with inner tube, equating good with fast. I think his ignorance is punishment enough.
Well, in his intro there, Ed Brown, that he refers to, was of course a poet from California, not the Ed Brown we know from Manitoba. As far as we know, Ed Brown from Manitoba is still doing well, and we might see him at the Kamloops Cowboy Festival next March. Anyway, thank you so much for making the ride this week. Sure hope you can saddle up and join us right here next week at the same time. And thanks again to our support crew, Mark and Kathy McMillan. See them at meadowsprings.com. And of course, thanks again to our new sponsor, Irvine Saddles and Western Wear, just north of Calgary, Alberta. Till next week, I'm Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.